Colonel Vladimir Lichit, oh my god, Koznov walked silently down the prison hallway and entered cell number 108. The two green uniformed men in front of the Polakov was lying on his back, his eyes wide open. His left hand was clenched to his mouth. I watched him all the time, comrade, colonel, every minute. I watched him through the Judas hole. The guard explained nervously, standing to attention his hands at his red pipe trousers seams. I know these men, interjected the prison commandant. They are all reliable. If he says he watched the prisoner every minute, then you can be sure he did. Colonel Kosnov had nothing. He reached down and wrenched the hand from the dead man's mouth. He held Polakov's fingers in his own and examined them. The nail on the thumb had been bitten through. It was cracked as a piece of plastic might crack. He leaned over and sniffed the dead thumb. The faint odor of almonds stung him. It would be impossible for him to conceal anything on his. The commandant. We have searched him thoroughly. There is no way he could have done it. Kosnov looked at the commandant impassively. Then I must assume he is still alive, he said. The commandant sighed and glanced at the body, as if the colonel's words might miraculously infuse it with life. Kosnov took a last look at Polakov. He thought he detected a slight smile on the dead man's lips. Oh my god. Before he could restrain himself, he smiled back. He turned to his heel and left the cell. The guard and commandant followed. At the end of the corridor, he walked quickly through the steel door, slamming it in the face of the two men following him. He climbed the stairs to the next floor, where his adjutant waited in front of a cell. "How are you, Rodin?" asked the colonel. "Korosho," answered the lieutenant. Koshnov peeked through the Judas hole. Polakov's young wife was asleep in the next cell. His mother and sister sat on the floor, their eyes closed, holding each other's hands. He looked back to the sleeping face of the wife. She was quite lovely. I should have married, he told himself. Straightening the colonel mentioned to the cell in which the two older women dozed. "Kill them," he ordered. Then dismissing the adjutant, he opened the door of the window cell and stepped in. 5 hours later, Uncle Morris sent a cablegram to Sweet Alice. It began, "The paper pot is broken." Okay. Section 1. I want the defector. Lieutenant Commander Charles Ron, ESN, Regional Director Systems of the Office of Naval Intelligence, woke at precisely 6 a.m., brushed his teeth and completed his Royal Canadian Air Force exercises in 4 minutes and 28 seconds. He shaved, showered, and began dressing in front of the floor length. His trousers had been pressed slightly off the crease. He changed to another uniform, pinched his tie to perfection, buttoned his jacket, and buffed his shoes to a high black gloss which the electric polisher. He picked up his briefcase, tucked his copy of the Wall Street Journal under his arm and started out for the officer's mess. He finished half a grapefruit, two poached eggs and one slice of rye toast before pouring his third cup of black coffee, neatly folding back the newspaper to the closing stock market prices, taking a deep breath and beginning to read. He was counting his losses when the door flew open. He didn't have to look up to recognize the rasping voice of Captain Felson. Run, the plane is waiting. Where the hell are all of your things? What plane? What things? You guys, you can comment. Is the book enjoyable? You can also subscribe to my channel. Okay, new page. The seaplane, your civilian things, your kit, everything. Where are they? In my quarters. Where else? Don't sit there, Commander. Get them. Why? Asked the Admiral. From behind a long oak desk devoid of antiquity or character, the Admiral watched Ron approach. He did not bother to return the salute, but simply said in an angry and official tone, Lieutenant Commander Charles E. Ron, you are hereby informed that as of 1400 hours today, October 10th, you will no longer be under the jurisdiction of the Department of the Navy. Excuse me, sir, Ron said in disbelief. You are further informed, continued the Admiral, that as of 1400 hours October 10th, your commission as an officer in the Navy of the United States will be suspended, and concurrent with said suspension, all benefits accruing to you in the past or due to you to the future as either an officer in a naval establishment or a member of the armed forces of the United States will forthwith and forever be revoked and concealed. Not that it makes a goddamn bit of difference to you, I suppose. But, sir, Ron began, and you will no longer address me as sir, but I prefer calling you sir, and I prefer that you don't. Under what authority have I been separated? He demanded. It is proper and binding, the Admiral replied. Under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, I demand to know exactly the circumstances under which this order was given. To my knowledge, there is no possible way an officer can be discharged without either his knowledge or consent. I'm sure your new friends in Washington can explain. What friends? Ron? Admiral said, ignoring his question. I suppose in this day and age, your behavior is called initiative. I also suppose that people who get what they want, regardless of the method of or cost, are to be congratulated. Well, I'm old-fashioned, Mister, and I call what you did plain and simple insubordinate. No, there's a better word for it. A word that your former colleagues like to use, defection. I have not defected or deceived or done anything else. I know of no other word for a breach of loyalty. Admiral snapped back, and in this case you had at least two such loyalties to betray. The naval establishment on the one hand and your own intelligence organization on the other. A good many regular army and navy officers are damned sorry that CIC or ONI were ever formed. They seem to they seem to believe that intelligence personnel develop stronger loyalties to their own organizations that they do to either the army or navy. Well, Mr. Ron, you've gone them one better. You've proven that a really good intelligence officer won't even stand by his own kind. Why aren't you in civilian clothes? No one told me to change. Only officers in the United States Navy are entitled to wear that uniform. Once upon a time, legend has it, some men even died for it. When you've changed. My car will take you to the airport, as is expected in cases like this. Dismiss Mr. Ron. A thin, silent young man in a Brooks Brothers suit moved in behind Ron as he waited for his baggage at the Washington airport. Mr. Ron, he had whispered, you will please follow me. My Valpak hasn't come down yet, Ron answered. It's already in the car. He led Ron quickly through the crowd to a limousine in which two very similar young men were waiting. You're late, one of them said as the car moved off toward the city. The plane was late, Ron explained. We may miss the train. They'll hold it for us, the driver said firmly. The car turned a sharp corner and sped over the oh my word, that is what it did. Chesapeake Bridge. Where are you going? Ron asked. To the station. Can any of you explain how I could be discharged without my consent? Asked the man on the train. Guys, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And we're reading this book. It's called The Chameleon Letter. The author says if you don't like the book, you'll have to return it. Okay. The three young men hurried Ron along the train corridor. I'm in there, said one of them, motioning to a partially open drawing room door. The trio continued on alone to the next car, still carrying Ron's backpack. A short sunburned man in dark green slacks and an open-necked open-necked Hawaiian sports shirt stood in the middle of the compartment. You're late, Mr. Ron, he said. The plane was late. Then you should have taken an earlier flight. This was the one I was put on. Then the Admiral is at fault. The man walked to the window and sat down. The Admiral will have to answer for it. Someone always has to answer in these matters. Ron remained standing. By what jurisdiction was any commission revoked? He demanded. You can have it back if you want. Ron had no answer. That choice is up to you. The man continued. However, after reading your record, I have the impression that my clients might be able to offer you something quite interesting.